Okay, everybody's mic is muted. All right, guys. So here we go. Um, I'm not going to rush through this, but I'm just going to be straight to the point. Last night, and I woke up around, I didn't get home till about, it was roughly around close to 4. And so I woke up maybe around 5 or so. And then I had asked the Lord, I distinctly remember asking the Lord, like, Lord, because there's so many things that we can discuss, so many things that we can talk about, so many points that we could just go after. But I'm like, Lord, what would you have me talk about with your people today? You know what I mean? What would you have me to bring to the light, bring to the forefront today? And I didn't get a check in my spirit. I didn't hear a thought in my head. I didn't hear an audible voice, but I just put it out there and I trust he was going to answer. I went back to sleep. When I went back to sleep, however, I had a dream. And I understand that God does speak in dreams, visions, and things of that nature, but I understood this dream is from the Lord. And when I woke up from the dream, I actually woke up from the dream just like a little, not afraid, but startled, like you hear a loud noise and you're like, what? Like startled. But I woke up praying in the spirit, like I woke up praying in the spirit and then immediately started to speak in my understanding, but we'll get there. So the dream goes, I was somewhere downtown, like we were out ministering, and I had 2 other brothers with me. They weren't familiar. I don't remember what they looked like. I think one may have been familiar, but one I didn't know. And so we're going around, we're talking to these people and, sharing the kingdom of God. And then all of a sudden, people started being really rude to the one guy that I didn't know. They start flipping him the bird and giving him the middle finger and just being really rude towards him. And then this one group that we had talked to earlier that wasn't rude towards them, they started being rude towards them. And I'm like, all right, we just gonna move down here. We're gonna go down here. And so down the street, it was like a block, like this one block is the hood. This next block, it was a government building. And I remember the steps being white. And it was almost like a courthouse or something like that, right? And me and the 2 brothers go and sit on the steps. And then this woman, she's a little petite woman. She like maybe 5'6" or 7 or something, smaller than me. All right, and she comes up and she talks to the one guy. She's like, hey, and she asks a question. What do you think about this? What do you think? She had like a sign, like she was protesting, and she was literally for the ways of the world, right? She was either talking about abortion, or she was either talking about LGBTQ, or she could have been talking about both. But she said, what are your thoughts here? And we saw the sign, and there were other people out in the streets, like out in front of this courthouse, and they were upset. They were protesting, picking, you know how it goes. And so the one dude, like, I can see this part is funny because I can see us doing this. He's like, that's an interesting question. I think I'm gonna defer you over to Pastor Cody. And I'm like, you know what? That is an interesting question. I think I'm gonna defer you over to my man here, the guy who was getting picked on, right? And so, because sometimes I don't know if you guys have been there, but when you're out in the streets and you're ministering, you kind of sometimes you just don't want to get into it. Like, I just don't want to get into it with you today. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to do this debate. I'll share the thing, we'll call it, but we'll share the gospel, we'll call it, but we ain't going to get into this debate. I'm like, let me defer you to my man here. And as she looks at him and asks the question, he didn't really respond, but she says, it's the menorah that's the cause of all of these problems. It's the menorah. It's the menorah's fault. And here we go, as in natural fashion, as I would do around, like, God, I'm like, what are we talking about? The menorah is the Old Testament. The menorah is the Old Testament. And this is the dream. I know this is the menorah, but in the dream, like, the menorah is the Old Testament being fulfilled, being the law of the Old Testament being fulfilled or something like that, right? And then she started getting heated, like her countenance was changing, like she was face was twisting up, she was getting red in the face. Oh, I just hate when people try to, she was all sweet at first. Oh, what's your thoughts on this? But then when I said that, oh, I just hate when people start defending or doing this, that, or the other, talking about the menorah. And I'm like, the reason you hate it is because you got a devil, and that needs to come out of you now. And so when I did, and I'm not saying, guys, I'm not saying that everybody that has a worldly view or belief is possessed. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that if you believe in one of the hot topics that the world believes in, I'm not saying that you're possessed. I'm not saying that. Is it thinking like the enemy? Yes, of course. I won't back down off of that. But I'm not going to say you're possessed. All right. Because again, as we talked about earlier, there's a certain level of growth we have to do, responsibility and accountability for our own actions and why we believe what it is that we believe. And so she started freaking out. She started manifesting here. This is a dream. She started manifesting. And so I get up off the steps and I step down, and all of a sudden I look over. I look over and I see her shoes. And I look down under her shoes and I see nothing. This woman is floating. She is levitating there. Right? And I'm like, yo. And I'm like, my two guys are still on the steps, but I'm down on the street. And I'm like, yo, like, look at this. Look at this. She over here floating. She levitating. Look at this. And then, because I'm trying to get the people that's with her, because she's championed this viewpoint. I'm trying to get the people that are with her to see what's going on, what's behind this thought process, right? But as I turn back around, after I'm trying to get people to look, and I don't think nobody paid any attention, but as I turn back around, now where her shoes were are legs coming from out of her pants leg. It's like she had an artificial leg extension where she's 9 feet tall, but it's just her legs that grew. And so now she's standing up, so she's not floating anymore, but she's standing up, but she's 9 feet tall, so she's still out of place. And so, and I forget, I turned to the crowd and said something else, but when I turned back this time, and this is what woke me up. When I turn back this, I only know one other person that I really trust their word, where they saw a person physically change form in front of them. In real life, not in a dream, in real life. You know what I mean? I would love for her to share that one of these days, but maybe we'll see. But I only know one other person who tell this testimony of somebody physically changing form completely to a different person in front of them. And I believe it. Every time I hear the story, it's the same. The account is the same. Hear it from her, or I hear it from somebody else that I believe. It's the same. And hopefully she'll share one day, but we're not going to sidetrack. Now she's not wink. She might be on here. But when I turn back around, this woman's face completely changed. Now everybody knows what a lemon head box is. The little head on the lemon head box, how it's wide like that. It's about wide and, it's kind of oval shape. Her head was like that. Her hair got stringy. Her eyes were really like wide and sinister. And her mouth was like, imagine a big head, you put a football in front of it, how it's like this. And her mouth was shaped like that, like a football, but it was open. And she had these little jagged teeth, like piranha teeth, little piranha teeth. And there was about 1 inch or 2 in between each tooth. Piranha teeth. And she just looked at me and she blurted something. She did something, right? And so when I turned around and I saw that, it was like, oh, you know what I mean? Because honestly, guys, I don't know if I'm spoiled or whatever, but usually when I address, and the team, usually when we address demonic spirits, very seldom does the demonic spirit try to put on a display. It happens from time to time, but very seldom does the demonic spirit put on a display to try to get us to change our mind about what's happening here. It's pretty much a done deal 95% of the times. You know what I mean? We'll pray for somebody, spirit come out, and they won't manifest. They might be a little shaken, or they say, wow, I just felt something leave me. I felt something lift off me. When you see a lot of times other people, it'll be a whole show, twisting and rolling and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that that's an issue, but I'm just saying what it is, because I think when we first started ministering out, I had my 2 little ones with me, and I had set in stone, like, yo, y'all ain't gonna manifest out here because y'all ain't gonna scare my kids. They were small, 4, 6. Like, y'all ain't gonna scare my babies. So y'all ain't manifesting out here. And it was to the point where some of the brothers like, yo, you think they old enough where we can see some of the action? I'm like, I don't care now. Like, they're big boys. They're still not over 10, but they're at a point where like they can see it. It's fine. And we've seen some, but 95% of the time, We don't see nothing like that because the Spirit's like, okay, we're going. We're not going to put on a show. Well, a lot of times when they try to put on a show, they're trying to get you to back off what you're doing. A lot of times when they're causing the individual quote unquote pain, they're trying to get you to back off what you're doing. A lot of times when they say, no, I'm not going to go, or this, that, or the other, they're trying to get you to back off what you're doing. You know what I mean? So, but when I turned and saw that, it kind of, it was like a shock, a sensory shock, like, whoa, what? And then that woke me up out of the dream. But when I woke out of the dream, I'm praying in the Spirit. I'm just laying in bed, then I'm like, oh, whatever that was, in Jesus' name, blah, 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 blah. Start going at it. Because I woke up praying in the Spirit. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to take authority over this. The funny thing is, I've seen that face before. Years ago, when I first started getting my life right with Christ, I went through about 2 weeks of seeing demonic in my room. There's no other way. I've seen that face before. And that was one, when I saw that face before, it was about maybe 4 feet, 3 to 4 feet tall. And it was almost like it was a hieroglyph on the wall. And I woke up and saw it. And when I focused in on it, it slowly faded away. And I think I said something, but it slowly faded away. So it was, I've seen the face that woman had turned into, you know? And so we're going to get back. I know I just spent a bit of time explaining the dream, but we're going to get to the scripture here, because the menorah, what is the menorah? We're going to talk about that. Exodus 25, verse 30, 31. Again, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, we'll save them to the end. We'll talk about it. Exodus 25, 30, starting at 31. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of his side, come out of the sides of it. 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same, and it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. Now, guys, this isn't a deep dive on the menorah, on the 7 candlesticks. But one of the things that we point out is this candlestick is of pure gold. 2, it's a beaten work, all right? But it's 7 candlesticks, but they're all one. There's one base, 7 candlesticks, all right? Numbers 31, 22 through 24. Only the gold and the silver, the brass, the iron. No, we're gonna stick to Exodus real quick. Jesus said, I am the vine, ye are the branches, right? These candlesticks aren't 7 separate candlesticks where they're separate from each other. They're one. There's one base. You move the base, you move everything. Now, one may be a little further to the right, one may be a little further to the left, some may be closer to the middle, so one may be in the middle, but they're all of one base. Guys, already we're seeing an image of the church. All right, but it's made of gold, and it's a beaten work. Only the gold, Numbers 31, 22 to 24, only the gold and the silver and the brass and the iron and the tin and the lead, everything that may abide the fire, he shall make it go through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it shall be purified with the water of separation, and all that abideth not in the fire, you shall make go through the water. And ye shall wash your clothes on the 7th day, and ye shall be clean, and afterward you should come up into the camp. So we just really need 22 and 23 there. Because 22 starts explaining the different things that can go through the fire. Everything that may abide the fire, everything that may survive this fiery trial, this fiery test of your faith, make it go through the fire, and it shall be clean. See, sometimes we think as we're going through the fire, we're being punished. What did I do wrong? Or as I'm waiting for God to move in a particular way in my life, what did I do wrong? Come on, Lord, what's happening? I think we talked about this last week. I see my brother over there. That situation is good. Lord, what about my situation? Opposed to saying, I see my brother's situation over there. Their situation is good. Thank you, Jesus, because if you're good for them, I know you're good for me. But if you got me going through this, if you've allowed me, not that you've put me in, but if you've allowed me to go through this fire for this time, Lord, to God be the glory. I'm going to come out this other side purified, clean. And then, of course, the purification through the water. We understand the water is the Spirit of God, but we also understand the water as being the baptism, the death of the old and coming up and rising of the new. Right? And so the candlesticks, the menorah, as the woman talked about in the dream, as the demon-possessed woman talked about in the dream, she said the menorah is the problem. The menorah is the problem. All right, so let's go. So I said we saw in Exodus, it looks like an image of the church because it looks like a tree. He even defines it because God tells Moses about it. He says, look, you have branches. Well, trees have branches, guys. He didn't say, well, this is the trunk, but trees have branches. And we understand without even having to pull the scripture up. I am the vine, ye are the branches. All right. And Revelation, this is Revelation, I didn't put the chapter, this is chapter 1 or chapter 2. And I turned, starting in verse 12, and I turned, this is chapter 1, and I turned to see the voice that spake with me. And being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. That's 12 and 13. Verse 20 says, the mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. The menorah is the problem. This is what the woman says. The world, the demon possessor. The menorah is the problem. Well, the menorah is a representation of the church, the representation of God's body. And who is in the midst of the 7 candlesticks? Jesus Christ himself. Now we understand that as the disciples went out in the book of Acts, they said, and these are the men that turned the world upside down. To the world, that's a problem. To the sons of God, that means we're turning the world right side up. Woe unto the man that calls evil good and good evil. Right? So we see, and I've heard this before, that the church, the Christians are the problem. As we come to all of these different things, we're going to be considered the intolerant ones. We're going to be considered the problem with a lot of the things going on in the earth through the natural mindset, when it's really us turning the world right side up. To them, it's turning the world upside down. 1 Peter 1:7 says that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold, and even the gold perishes, but look, it still withstands the fire, but it's much more precious than that of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus. What are we going to do as we're going through the fire, family? The 7 candlesticks are pure gold. They're a beaten work, but to even start to shape gold, it has to be put into the fire. How do we withstand the fire, family? And this is where God was giving Jay to tap into the sermon earlier today, because as we see the 3 Hebrew boys, they say, look, it don't matter what you say, King, we're not going to bow to you. Right? And I know a lot of times we'll say that that the 3 Hebrew boys said that even if God didn't deliver them, they still wouldn't bow. We got to look at that in a different we got to look at that in a different perspective, because if God didn't deliver them, they're not going to bow. They're dead. They were thrown into the fire. So they weren't saying, if not, O king, we still won't bow to you. They were saying, if you don't throw us in the furnace, we're still not going to bow to you. They were standing purely in faith. The furnace in front of them. We cannot bow to you when the dulcimer or the harp or this, that, or the other plays. We won't do it. But although, no, if you don't throw us in the furnace, we still not going to bow to you. So they weren't going in there wavering, well, I hope God will deliver me. I hope he will. We just heard the poem of protection, right? I hope God will deliver me. But if he don't, then glory be. Nah, man. God is with us. He will never leave us nor forsake us. And he will protect us. They didn't go in there, oh God, I hope that you please, Lord. Look, okay, I'm not to say that they didn't feel fear. It doesn't talk about it. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. There have been situations where we should have felt fear. I should have felt fear. I felt nothing. There have been other situations where I felt fear. Regardless of what we feel, what do we do in the situation? The trial of our faith, but it's tried with fire. Will it be able to withstand the fire? As the world looks at us and blames us for the stuff that they want, that's of the enemy, that's of the devil, that they try to put a pretty picture on it with a smile and a hug and a heart, or they try to put on it with love, or they try to put on it with choice and women's rights and freedom. But the thing that wants to be accomplished is of the enemy. There's nothing the matter with women's rights. It's beautiful. They should have women's rights, absolutely. There's nothing the matter with marriage. There should be marriage. But these things have to be in the context of God. I don't know if somebody who doesn't agree with this, you might see my black cape flowing right now. I'm okay with the bad guy title. I've settled into that. Us as believers, we have to settle in as being looked at as the enemy. Oh, you're not loving. You're not. Call it what you want. Love is not being okay with you sending yourself straight to hell. Love is not, love defends. But the person that wants to do the thing that sends them to hell, they don't feel like you're loving them. They feel like you're against them. You're an adversary. But you're an adversary to the spirit, which is motivating. Job 23:10 says, but he knoweth that way that I take, when he have tried me, I shall come forth as gold. She says the menorah is the problem. Then in a dream, I respond, the menorah is the embodiment of the law. But let's look at that, because it's not and I said the 10 commandments, I believe. Well, Jesus said under these 2 commandments fall all the rest of them. Love your neighbor as yourself. And love the Lord your God with all your mind, heart, soul, and your strength. That is the embodiment of the church, because that is the embodiment of Christ. Loving your neighbor as yourself. When I was doing some really stupid stuff in the world, when I was doing some really, really dumb stuff in the world, as I look back like, dang, I'd have wanted somebody to stop me from going down that road, save me some heartache, save me some stuff I was going through, right? And though they didn't, God used it for the glory, right? Stuff that I did in the dark, only a few people knew, but some people that knew could have been like, yo, Cody, come on, yo, what you doing? Right? Love your neighbor as yourself. If I'm standing in the street and I'm about to get hit by a truck, but I want somebody to pull me out of the street, yeah. So I'm looking down the road and I see a truck coming, you stand in the street, so what am I going to do? The church embodies the 10 commandments, because the 2 commandments embody the 10. The one being embodies all of it. That's Jesus. And we are in him, not just in him, but he's in the midst of us. But the world saw the light and it looked like to them darkness. It's something that I made up. I might use it one day. And I say, it sounds a little cryptic, but I say, to the light, to the darkness, I am darkness because I am light. The darkness can't understand the light. It comprehends the night. Now, you've seen the light so much that you can't see. You're blind, right? To the darkness, I'm darkness because I'm the light. To death, I am death because I am life. You know what I mean? You can sit back and think on that for a while because death isn't allowed to function where life is. So if death can't be what it was designed to be, well, essentially to death, that's death. We got to stand up. Sons of God, all of creation is waiting for the sons of God to manifest. All of creation. Will there be some enemies? Yes. Will there be some presentations? Yes. Will there be some persecution? It's promised. But he laid down his life for us. Are we not willing to lay our life down for him? Take up our cross daily and follow him? We might lose some relationships, might lose a job or two, might lose some jobs. Some people might get physically assaulted. Again, I steer on the side of not because I always look at the protection aspect. Yeah, guys, when we was out there, Dev, I don't know if you saw a couple of the swords that dudes were running around there with as we were out on the street. And I'm not getting you the answer now, but some dudes had some nice long, like the blade was down to their kneecap, from their hip to their kneecap. Man, just walking around just with like a sword on their hip, like, where we at? Saw some other dudes stashing pocket knives as we were. But I continue to gear myself towards I'm protected wherever I go. I'm a son of God. They didn't put their hands on Jesus till Jesus laid his life down. I'm a representation of him, not the rest of the apostles who were beaten and stoned and all that's fine. They went through it, they endured it. It's awesome. But I'm believing for greater than that. I'm believing for Jesus. Jesus said, look, no man take my life, I lay it down. And they did not touch him until he decided this is the day. So, guys, I know I jumped around a bit. I know it was here and there. I know in the dream when, she levitated, then she changed her face again. That was just, all that's just a ploy to get us to back off. It's to get me to back off. Oh yeah, they put on a show to get you to think, whoa, they're really powerful. She's changing physical form. She's powerful. Whoa, she's really powerful. She's floating. I ain't never float. I ain't never changed form. It's all a show. It's all a presentation. But what do we do with something that's presented to us? And so on that note, family, I'm going to open the floor up. And who we still got on here? I'm going to open the floor up. We still got everybody on here. I'm going to open the floor up for any questions, comments, concerns, anything along those lines before we go ahead and close out.